Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
I can derelict my own balls, thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to another thrilling weekend work here at Aztek Dummy. It is the third weekend in February, I think. It's the... never mind that. Big works, big doings this weekend. We are going to put the interior of the hopper into the ball. There's just a couple of tiny things I have yet to do to this to get it ready to go in, and then in it shall go. And also, we'll show you the finished Batmobile. I've did a couple of pre-taped segments earlier in this week that I will splice in after this introduction. But the Batmobile is finished for all intents and purposes. There are some minor details in the cockpit that have not been addressed yet. But it's done. It's a heck of a good-looking model. Not that I'm not on me. The model itself is a good-looking model. And working on two models is always my modus operandi. So we're going to be working on the Derelict this weekend, and we hope to get. I hope there's no we here. I hope to get that finished. It's a simple build. There's not a lot of painting to it. There's a lot of repetitive construction, but it's all in the finishes. So it should be easy enough to do that in a weekend. So let's get to it. Greetings, it is Monday evening and I have not rested. No, my friends. I have resumed work on the Batmobile. I got the wings on. That was kind of fun, pairing up all of those pistons from the underneath and getting everything to match up and come out level and all that. I think I did pretty good. Also put the outside of defenders on. These would be defenders of the law or defenders of justice. And you can see I got a little bit of putty in there just to close up that seam, and I will patch that as soon as it dries overnight. But did that on all four corners. Painted in some detail. The black detail there, the silver detail there. Again, going to let this dry overnight. And when I come back to it tomorrow, I also got the little headlighty lamp. I think those are spotlights because those are supposed to be the headlights down there. So those must be spotlights. I've got those on anyway. I've got to put the windscreen or the window frame in and do the last bit of restreaking. But I will do that tomorrow at the same time I blend in over top of those putty lines. So, and of course, like I've said a million times, the inside is nothing done to it yet. So let's take this off and start working on the window frames. It is Tuesday, and work continues yet again on the Batmobile. I am going to paint the windows, paint the windshield, the framework. Got the templates on for the front. I have some yellow tape on the back. All I need to do is spray a gray light blocking coat, and then I will spray the gunmetal coat. And I'm getting ever so close to finishing up the Batmobile. I'm doing some final bits of aging, weathering. I've got the comm arts out now, and I'm doing some fun stuff up front here where most of the weathering and dirt would be, since that's, you don't see the Batmobile backing up very much. So the front stuff is going to be where all the streaking starts. And started playing a little bit with the interior. I'm going to do some more work on those seats, but there it is. Now over here I have the frame. It has been masked and it has been painted, and I am waiting just a little while longer for the paint to dry on that frame before I pop it in there. And then I think it will be well and truly done. Play some more with the comm arts on the guns and the, putting some dust and dirt on it, that kind of stuff. I'll maybe put some dirt up under there to show wear and tear, but for the most parts, it is done. Here's a nice little half and half two-face shot. I've got half the templates taken off, and you can see the yellow painter's tape behind it. And now I'll do the other half. And there's the final canopy, or windshield, or whatever you want to call it, with the masks taken off. I'm going to let it dry a little longer before I go to install it, but everything came off nice and clean. I used Tamiya's on this. I still used a gunmetal, but it's a Tamiya, not the Model Mastery enamels that I used on the rest of the kit. But I did have to make sure I put a gray light blocking coat underneath it, and that is new gravel gray. It's one of my last remaining poly scales, but just to give it some body and some oomph. And you can see the gray on the inside, the underside of that gray. But just because metalizer over clear plastic doesn't go on that evenly or that easily, so I needed a base primer color to put over it. And here's the finished Batmobile. Finished for lack of a better term, because I really can't think of too much more I want to do to it at this point. I have some more detailing to do inside the cockpit, but that's it. Windows in place, the window frame nicely painted. The fenders are all screwed in. The fenders are all attached and patched over and sanded. Did the griming on the side bits there that I wanted to do, and I've touched up the some of the metal back there and got the tires all in place, and I think we're good. I think we're fine. And last thing to do, like I said, is to do some sort of, you can see some detail work has been started, but it's a lot cleaner in there than it probably would end up being otherwise. So for right now, I'm calling it a done thing. Okay, one of the first of the two things that needs to get done is Mr. Fibbles needs to get replaced on the co-pilot seat. Now, there was a Mr. Fibble in the Red Dwarf series, but that was a murderous sock puppet. This is Mr. Fibbles. Isn't he nice? He's kind of half Snuggy Bear, Snuggles Bear, and half just big, goofy, stuffed animal. He goes there in the pilot seat, or the co-pilot seat. And I had him glued down once, but he didn't stick, so I have to reattach him. Now, this tricky thing is what adhesive to use, because I can't get in there with a drop of glue, and I don't dare put a drop of glue on his hind end, because if I drop him or jockey him around too badly, it's just going to smear glue everywhere. So this is one of those times we're having a myriad of choices in adhesives. Adhesives comes in handy. So I'm taking some epoxy putty, and I am making a wee ball of it, and I'm going to stick it on there and get him situated. And we've come to the momentous point in time, ladies and gentlemen. I am taking one last ever-loving look inside this cabin, because I am getting ready to put the windshield on. And when it's on, that effectively closes up this cabin. And by closing it up, I am committing myself to what is in there and leaving out anything else I might want to add later. So this is the donest it's gonna get. I've got one last little clipboard here that I'm gonna glue down into this window frame, and then we will be done. And now, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant here. We are a nation of laws. We like to think we follow the rule of law, and modeling is no different. There are rules, not as heady or weighty as the first law of thermodynamics, or even the first law of robotics, or even the first law of ape shall never kill ape. But there are laws nonetheless, and one of them are Lew's laws, and one of Lew's laws is if you have a clear window, you do not mess it up. You try to keep your clear windows clean. Windows are meant to be kept clean, and you do not do anything that endangers the clear window. Well, I'm going to break Lew's law here, because one thing I want to do is I want to purposefully fog up the bottom edges of these windows, just to make it look like the windows aren't quite as clean as they could be and haven't been kept that way. So what I'm going to do is take some dust, and I'm just going to, on the inside, obviously not the outside here, and just spray a fine line around the perimeters here, like the windows are a little bit fogged over. And then I'm going to try to do something funny. Let's find out if it'll work. Okay, here I hope you can see on the video whether it's picking it up or not. I think it is picking it up pretty well. You can see the deliberately fogged windows. Now, obviously not where the important stuff is, but around the window frames. You can see a little smiley face has been wiped into the inside. And there's a face and a handprint, and a little ace was here. Some inside jokes. But yeah, still abundantly clear where it needs to be. But you know, you spend your whole modeling life trying to avoid fogging up your windows and scratching them or doing anything to cut their clarity. And then one day you find yourself in the position of having to fog up your windows intentionally, but that is what dust is for. See, the dust, it does everything. It's a multi-purpose paint. When I thought I had it on too thick, I just simply took a Q-tip with some isopropyl alcohol. There you go, the isopropyl, and wiped it down, wiped it back off, and then sprayed up some more and wiped it down and sprayed it up until I got a coverage that I liked. But now I'm down to closing up this cabin. I'm going to take one last swipe at cleaning the windows. But you know, it works that the windows have streaks in them, because you would imagine the characters inside were trying to lean up over the counters and maybe wipe them down with a rag every once in a while when they got dirty. And that's where we are. I didn't put any grime in there. This is all condensation fog type of stuff. It's not dirt windows in the traditional sense. So let's get this window frame secured to this frame, and this cabin will be buttoned up. Would you look at this? I'm quite frankly astonished. Yes, there was some tense moments and colorful expletives and enough stress to crack a diamond. But it's in. Look at that. It is in. Randy, in his own admission, said it was best to leave these guys out until you had everything put together, and it's absolutely vital that you do not attach those. You will need those spaces to put your fingers in and jockey things around. I am quite frankly amazed. I did hear some cracking and some creaking of plastic as it went in, so I need to go through and evaluate where there might be any damage or snapped parts, but it's in. This line here looks pretty good. This line here looks very good. Where the windshield goes in, that looks very good. Now it looks like the whole thing needs to come up a little bit, but all of the pins are engaged. Let me see if I can flip under the underside here so you can see this. Hold on one second. That is the view I'm talking about. You need to have these thrusters, or these big engines, open to get in there so that you can align. There's one pin, there's the other one, to make sure those line up. Now I'm going to epoxy the snot out of this, like I've said before, and let it sit up for a few hours at least. I don't know if I'll get the other side on tonight, but that would be a good stopping point. Yes, now I'm going to try this with some lights. Hold on one second. Let's see if I can get this thing lit up. Okay, it's half alive. It's alive, but only half there. Something you haven't seen in a while. The undercarriage lights on. Look at that. All the headlights are lit. It's amazing. That light's on. That light's on. The headlights are on. And someone's home. This is probably what the interior lighting will be most of the time. This is what the interior lighting will be most of the time. It is the red, the corridor light and the bunk lights and all of the consoles, but without the overhead lights on. So that's most of all. I don't have the red alert lights on. That'll be for special occasions, but Yumpin' Yiminy, it's in. Now to get out the epoxy. Oh, happy days. Oh, happy day. Yes, everybody sing along with Lou. It's a happy day. Here you can see what the red alert circuit looks like. I am trying to make sense of all the spaghetti to get to the switches, and I've discovered a faulty switch, which is the red alert switch, and I'm going to replace that now because soon it will be almost inaccessible. But I could see some light leakage issues that I need to take care of, most notably around the front of the airlock there on that inside. So I'm going to mix up some epoxy sculpt and jam that in there. You can see it's particularly bad here. So I'm going to do that from the other side and take care of that. And you can see the little, look at that. Mr. Fibble sitting in his chair. Very nice. Exceedingly happy with all this. I'm almost think it's going too well. I think I better stop before my law of averages runs out. Okay, as much as I would like to close this up tonight, I don't think it's going to happen because of a very good reason. I am packing epoxy sculpt in around these gap osises around the airlock, and I need to let that set up because I need to keep filling in some more. So I got the first layer in, and it's going to dry overnight, and then tomorrow I will finish that off, and then I will be ready to join these two halves together. I've soldered all of those connections, and all the switches seem to be working just fine now. But I'm getting to the fatigue part. I don't want to screw something up. So that's it for Friday night on the hopper itself. I may work a little bit on the Derelict. Well, I'm sorry I didn't have somebody here holding the camera and filming while I did this momentous thing, but it took me about a good 5 minutes of fitting and lining up pins and pushing and pulling other parts out of the way and making sure things were lined up and all of that. And there is no glue on this yet, but the second hemisphere is on, and I will pause here for a hallelujah. Now I need to go back on the inside now and reinforce this with some epoxy. Every place that I can find a seam, I am going to put some epoxy on it. Now anybody who's built this model knows I am being generous when I say there are some fit issues with parts. Yes, there are more than issues. There are entire volumes of fit problems with this model. And I did the best to connect every pin that I could find and to get every connection hooked up on this ball, and look what you're left with. There is a horrible gap right here. Now it's not anything you can't fix with a bit of evergreen stock, but you'll notice that it is lined up here. It is sitting here, so it's not like it's out of whack all over the place. All the other seams are reaching along this bottom. It's just along the top that it doesn't fit very well. So I'm going to have to camouflage that with a bit of strip styrene. And like I said, start to reinforce this joint now with some epoxy. But it's in, it's working, hallelujah. Okay, work continues on seaming and gluing the second hemisphere in. The starboard side hemisphere, this guy right here, getting that glued in. I've gone over the top of this joint with a 10X as best I can. Now on the bottom we're going to be a little bit more fortunate because we can actually get inside here and throw some epoxy at that joint from the inside. But this whole top here is pretty much, I won't say it's a loss, but you can't get to it. It's just not designed that way. And let me see if I can turn this guy around a little bit. Ooh, he's getting heavy. Oh, he's a heavy baby. I've got tape pulled across to kind of pull that joint in, and I'm dripping a 10X down through this joint here. And like I said about the fit issues, yeah, I'll show you some bad symmetry here and let you evaluate it yourself. This joint fits nice and looks good here. It looks bad here. Now, they are equally attached. I mean, they're just as, they're in the right pins is what I'm saying, but the reveal is not the same. This should actually be below this, if that makes any sense. You see how this is more or less on the same plane between here. Let me see if I can zoom in. There you go. That's more or less, there's a lip right there that is on the same plane as that. When you get to this side, not only is there no outside lip like that, but where's my pointer? There. But it's actually below the hull on this side. And that's as it's supposed to be in the kit because the inside pins are lined up. Let's zoom back out. The inside pins are lined up, so that's just the way the model's designed. It kind of is nice and even here at the top. This is nice and flat, and that's a little proud. See, there's a extra gully here. There's an extra gully here that is not here, and that could be, you know, I mean, that's obviously the way it's designed, but it's not the way I'd have done it because I'm a freak for symmetry, and that's just not symmetrical. But maybe it wouldn't have been as noticeable if it had not been painted a different color. Who knows? But you can see now how the back door will fit over top of this hole, and I've got to put this piece of window glass in. But I knew that I could do that after everything was set because of this opening. So, work continues. And there's the rather glaring windshield patch. Now, of course, I'll paint that and it'll all go away, but this is one case where the inherent asymmetry of the kit works because you can easily believe that, you know, another piece was added on there and it covers up that big gap, and, you know, it works. So, I'll paint that in, but now I need to put some of the small pieces that broke off while I was doing all of the wrestling back on. One of these popped off, and of course the aerials broke off again, but I knew that was going to happen. So let me get those bits repaired, and then we will try to figure out what part is next, actually. Okay, no resting on my laurels today. I am letting the hopper, the epoxy cure on that, and my mind is already worrying over the possibilities of how to finish the Derelict, because, like I said, the Derelict is all about the finish, and the real danger in working with the Derelict kit is that you can actually end up making it look better than the prop did by trying to make it look more sophisticated. It was basically, as reports have said, a styrofoam ball with painted silver. So to try to make it look any fancier than that is, I don't know, trying to do it a disservice. So I was thinking that I wanted to use a hammered finish on it. Well, I don't know how well the camera's picking that up. So I did a test. This is hammered texture over white, and it looks good and it has a good finish to it. But this is hammered texture over the gray primer, and I think I've got it. I think that's exactly what I'm going to do for the exterior of the Derelict. It is, so you know, you can see a bit of a shine to it. I'll take this outside so you can see it out there even better. Okay, and here it is outside. It's still not showing up all that well. You get a bit of an orange peel effect going on, which is what you're looking for, but it's not. You control that by how much you spray on. You can go over it lightly, or you can go over it heavily. But it gives you that kind of texture, which is right about there is what I'm shooting for. That's a little too heavy. That's right about right. And all that is Rust-Oleum hammered, and the color is silver. So it's no specialty. I mean, it's a specialty item, but it's no esoteric hard thing to mix up. It is just a can of Rust-Oleum hammered. And now to apply it to this. It's a beautiful day, a beautiful February day, nice and warm. Wonderful day for a prime. So that's what I'm doing. I've got all the parts of the Derelict out here, and I'm priming them and getting ready to do some final assembly. Once you prime those balls, it makes it a lot easier to see any seams that need to be sanded or puttied. And then I'll flip these guys over and prime the back of them. But right now I'm just priming the sides. I'll paint the insides of those black, but for right now they are getting a good base texture. And playing with some textures on this, doing some crisscrosses. Just reviewed the episode again, as all diligent modelers should be doing, and just check the episode, and there's some crisscross patterns in there that need to be indicated. We'll see how that goes. So the next big step on the hopper, now that the sides are in and the epoxy is curing, is to work on some of these surface details that need to get put back in, and that includes these guys. And whatever I do, I need to make sure it's consistent along all four of them, so that's why I'm keeping them all out at the same time. And I just need to decide how I'm going to treat these engines. I think I want to spray a little bit, well, I got to touch up the flat black inside, but I think I want to do some heat scorch around the outside of it as well, whether that's a flat black or whether that's an exhaust metallizer, I'm not quite sure. And then I need to touch up some of this other detail work in there, and then I'll be able to snap them in place, well, glue them, except for the one that has magnets, glue them in place undersides here. And the other thing is, here's the problem. You can see right down the barrel of these engines, and they included no detail for that inside of that barrel. So I need to figure out what it is I'm going to do, because that's just ugly and will not do. If I could find some sort of unified greebly that I have 8 of that I could put in there, I think it would help. So going back to my old friend the googly eye, and I'm seeing whether or not I like it better with just the flat side showing like that, just to kind of seal off and close up that hole, or whether I want some sort of dome showing this way. Now that would be painted over, but it would give you a concave dome inside there, or a convex or concave? Convex, because it sticks out. Dome inside there, and I think that would add a little bit of detail and interest. And then I get to start working on all of the little bits of detail painting that need to get done on the outside. And then the last main problem is devising the outside ladders. Something that goes out from here and down, and something that will let you out the back door and down. And here's the back hatch with the window glass in. And let me spin this thing around and show you something else that's kind of got me bugged. There's the back window in place on the inside of the cabin, and I want you to notice how poorly the doors match up. This is the door in place, and you can see that the inside window does not match at all with the outside window, unless you hold everything kind of like at that angle. Can you see this door all the way through? This opening does not line up with that opening, and that's what I'm trying to get to. And there's that weird symmetry issue I had talked about before, as far as the front and the back of the two sides and the center of the ball. Now you've got symmetrical detail. You've got symmetrical detail here and here, but the opening is not symmetrical. The opening is shifted to that side. So it's kind of a funky thing, and it will have to be more or less epoxied into place, and filled in with some epoxy sculpt or some other type of putty. I may work on making some sort of little landing out here to kind of fill in the logical absence of any sort of landing out here. I mean, if you open that door, what are you supposed to do? Unless this is a zero gravity atmosphere, in which case you just float on out with your jetpack, there's no way to get from the ground to that door. And that's the main issue at hand, is how to get from the ground to that door. But that's what scratch building is all about, Charlie Brown. And welcome back to the Nitpicky Chronicles. We are working on finishing this detail that I had left last night with the first base coat of the epoxy sculpt, but now I need to kind of go in and finish, and that is to extend kind of some of those jams to even it up a little bit on both sides, showing where the door would hit. So, and I need to fill in the gap here of this transom. So I was priming the Derelict outside, putting another coat of primer on it, and it struck me what a wonderful base this would be if anybody wanted to do an old Johnny Quest crawling eye, walking eye kit. I mean, that's a good size. That'd be a good size walking eye. You just trim off that bit of the back and use the front for the eye and put some legs on it. That'd just be a neat kit. But outside we've got the Derelict primed, and just because we're going to texture it all is no excuse not for cleaning up the seams and sanding them smooth. So I've sanded the maw, the gaping maw parts, the teeth, the mouth, or whatever you want to call it, the petals that open up. Those guys. Those are primed, and they've had their first base coat, which is, the base coat is going to be the primer sealer gray, and they've got a first coat of that on it, and then I'm going to stick them on here. And actually I think I need to do is decide whether or not I'm going to put the interior in it or not, because really it's black in there and there's not going to be any lighting, and there's a question as to how much you're actually ever going to see. So I think if I do anything, I'm just going to put a flat piece. Now the interior of this Derelict, the cardboard that comes with it is no good. You might as well just scrap that, or build it up separately, or put it in a corner and pet it and pat it and say nice things to it, but don't put it in your model, because the curve, at least the curvature on mine, was so drastic that I could not keep both sides of it lined up, but and still try to fit the sides of the model together. It was nearly impossible. So what I did do with it, though, is I used it as a pattern to trace it out onto sheet styrene. Let me go get that. See, here are the kit parts, and that piece of cardboard it's a nice effort. Thank you, Mobius, for trying, but it's not going to work, because if you try to get it in one side, you'll never get it the other side lined up, like I said. And you've got this piece, which fits in it okay, but really what they're better for is making patterns in sheet styrene that are more stable to begin with. But what you can do with this is, since you've got 3 Jupiter 2s that come with the kit, you certainly could use one of them and make an interior model, make a model of just that. I probably would still spray mount this down to a solid shape, a piece of wood or whatever, to make sure that it's flat, and then build your background around it and make a nice little diorama. But as far as kit interiors, it is NG, no good. This is much better, much simpler, but it's going to accomplish what you need it to do. And I'm going to go out and spray some black primer on this and get it ready to go in there. Well, good evening. It's Saturday, late afternoon to early evening. And what we have here is a tale of 3 interiors. Working on the Derelict. This is the stock paper cardboard Derelict interior. Now, it's got the issues that I mentioned as far as it being cardboard and warpy and will not fit inside. Well, it'll fit inside, but it's almost impossible to capture between the 2 halves of the ball. The plus about it is it's got this wonderfully printed background on it that is very accurate and very neat. This is the second one. This is the one I made based on this interior. I basically traced the same dimensions out onto sheet styrene and made my own version of it. It's a lot stiffer. It can be captured in between the 2 sides. I sprayed some sparkly on there to kind of simulate the inside. For all intents and purposes, it's pretty good. It does the job. I decided, since I've got everything else going along so well today, that I would try my hand at version 2. So this is the third, what I call version 2 of the interior. Now it is the back wall is made of a thinner material. It's got a whole lot more of the tabs going through the floor, as opposed to these 3 tabs, which are very flat. What this is allowing to happen is making it out of a thinner material, and putting more tabs through the floor is making this a lot curvier. The curve is a lot smoother, a lot more cylindrical, and I think will sit inside a lot better. All we need to do now is paint it up. Okay, I've done a little bit of refessing. Okay, I've done a little bit of refining and finessing of the shape, and I'm ready to hit it with some primer, and then the black, and then the glitter, and then we will epoxy that inside and go from there. Well, this was fun. Playing around with the inside of the, shut up you compressor, playing around with the inside of the Derelict and putting some, I don't know what you'd call that, on the walls to simulate the strands and gossamer threads and spider webs that were inside. Now this is just the parts that aren't on the insert, but I will paint up the insert like this as well. When you look in the ship from the side, you'll see a little bit of that. There's no lighting in there, but I wanted to have something, just enough of an indication of what was going on in there. And that's kind of fun, and it's good airbrushing practice. And here's the new background. I recommend, if you're going to try this, to drink copious amounts of coffee, because it does help. Yeah, it's a little overdone. That's the printed piece. This is my interpretation of the printed piece. It's a little bit excessive, but I like it. So now I'm going to let this dry for a bit and stick it inside the hull, and maybe get this hull closed up tonight. That would be fun, and then it'd be a good spot to pick it up in the morn. And the finishing touch on this interior is to lightly spray it with Starry Night Glitter Blast. This was what I used on the Catwoman catsuit. So it's black, and it gives a nice little embedded sparkles. And since there's no lighting in this kit, these will help capture, the glints will help. Any available light might bounce off of those a little bit better. Here is the wee Jupiter 2. Now, I've not done any painting on that, but that gives you an idea how it relates to the inside. And now we just need to stick it in the ball. Give it a half hour or so to dry. Bouncing back to the hopper in the other room now, I think I've come up with a solution to the problem of these engine bells. I think I've come up with a pretty good idea. What I did is I found a bag of, I didn't find a bag, I went out and bought it. A bag of these tiny wire connectors. And I sanded down the majority of them until you get about that much left. And what I'm thinking I'm doing is just placing them inside there to act as some sort of futuristic nozzle type of deal. Once they're painted, I think they'll be very nice, and they will cover up that rather bad looking hole there. So I just need to do 7 more of these and we'll be ready to go. Yay. Well, it has been a most productive day here. It's coming up on Saturday evening, and I think I'm going to wind down for a bit. Of course, the big news is getting the interior in there and getting the left of the starboard side of the ball on. And most of that happened early this morning. That was kind of the highlight of the day, and it happened before 8 o'clock. And so then I hopped on the Derelict and see if you can see what's going on inside there. Yeah, maybe you can see what, there you go. See what's going on inside there. Very nice. Okay, so that has been primed, and I got some putty on the seam, obviously, and I've got these guys trimmed out. And I'm glad that they give you extras of these because they are very delicate. Even though I was warned online about how delicate they were, I still ended up breaking one of these guys. So I glued it back together, but luckily I didn't need it. So yay on that. Batmobile is finished. I may take 2 or 3 seconds tomorrow to do some final touches in the cockpit on some of the instruments. Found a very good paint today, Valspar Stone, for the base for the Batmobile. I'm going to do a street, and that stone is an excellent asphalt paved road paint. And the big news is this. Now, I think what I'd like to do before the end of the night is probably go get the wall wart and plug it in and flip some switches. That'll be fun. Okay, there's the hopper with every single light on. Now, you can really tell these big gaping holes need to be filled because you're just seeing the light spilling out all over there. But let's turn off the, I gotta label these switches because I'm just fumbling around trying to fit it. There was the that was the main overhead light. And let me see, I turn off the, nope, that's the main overhead light back on. Those are the spotlights on. That's the red alert lights off. That's what I was wanting to do. So that's just the bunk and the back corridor and the console lights on. And of course the spots outside. And there's a spotlight up here. And then of course let me turn the overhead lights off. There you go. I've been meaning to check this thing for light leaks anyway, so this will be handy now that I know what those are. Big honking light leaks there. But here's the console. You start to see inside, and the little handprint and the smiley face I did on the fogged up windows. And there's Mr. Fibble at the co-pilot's chair. And the hologram. And these front spotlights, which are kind of powerful. Let's see if I can get those turned off. There you go. Turn those off. And then turn off the consoles. And then turn off the bunk and the stairwell. That is the overhead light. And oh, there you go. That's the red alert lights. Oops, get it back up. Which is kind of a nice 2001 pod-ish look to it. There's the, excuse me, the cough there. There's the airlock light, and the pod, the 2001 pod with the red light look. And then of course go around the back, you can see in through the back window. And you can see the light leaks that I need to take care of. So that's, like I said, part of the mission for tonight was to turn everything off and turn everything on and see how bad the lights were leaking. Okay, it is Sunday morning, and yes, I am playing hooky from church today because my Sunday afternoon is going to be booked up. I need to do the work I would normally do on Sunday afternoon on Sunday morning, praying that the good Lord will forgive me, but then again, it's His fault for making this go so well. I always say this is the day the Lord has made, so it's His fault if anything goes wrong. But here we go. We've got Derelict ball. I sanded and put some putty over the seam last night, and I've sanded it this morning and hit it with a coat of primer already. And I'm ready to do the final finish on this, which will actually be the primer sealer gray. But before I do that, I need to protect the interior that I've made. See, now you can see the, if I shine a light in there, you can see the painting that I've done in there. Looks pretty good. At a distance, that's all I need. But I want to protect that from getting any errant spray in it. And I also need to start protecting these. I want to keep these black. Whoops, sorry. Did I keep these black and spray the outside, particularly the texture finish. I want to keep that protected from the texture finish. So I whipped out the trusty plotter and plotted up some masking shapes, and I will apply those right now. Oh, it can be good to have the right toys. I just needed to cut a circle mask out of some quick vinyl, and that way all of my good work inside is protected. And simple shape there, and repeat that for all 6 arms. Takes a lot of the timing out of it because I don't have to cut tape and do all of that jockeying around when I can just pull off one piece and it's done. So let me do this for the other 5 legs or petals, and I'll be ready to start doing the top coating. So here you see the masks on the inside of the petals, and really it's as simple as that. They don't have to be exact matches, and there's not a lot of surface area to attach to. Basically what you're doing is you're protecting that black interior from overspray from the gray finish on the outside. And let's go do that now, which is going to be the Duplicolor Primer Sealer Gray, and then we're going to put that hammer texture over top of it. The sandable primer, or the primer sealer, has been put on the ball, and I've highlighted as usual. As what it'll do is it'll highlight spots that need to be sanded or readdressed or just uneven. So letting that dry, and so I have put the sandable primer, take 3. So I've given the ball the first coat of the top primer sealer, and as what it's going to do, it's what it's for. Its main function is to show off any imperfections, and that it did. There were still some bits that needed to where the seam kept popping back out, even though this is a ball and it's only got one seam. That seam wants to reassert itself, so had to put some more putty on it, and I'll let this dry and then sand it down again. Okay, with the chirping of birds in the background, I've decided not to let the fact that the main body needs another coat of primer on it deter me from starting to put the hammered texture on these petals. I'm going to go very light and then build up coats as opposed to plastering it on and wishing I didn't put on that much. So this is going to be one of these. This is Rust-Oleum hammered silver, live while you watch it type of things. Getting around those balls is the tough part. Okay, I'm going to let that sit. That's all I'm going to do for this first coat. I'm going to let that sit and come back to it. I pull off this tiny little Jupiter too, that it got some overspray on it. Okay, the pedals have had their first coat of hammering, and you can see where it's a good start, but it's not enough. Dang it, it's not enough. I want to put more of texture in there, so this is why you do several light coats instead of one heavy coat. So what I want to do is I'm shaking the can really well just to make sure that the unique properties that give it the hammered texture are well mixed in with the rest of the can. And I'm going to spray another light coat on top. Now we're starting to see what I'm looking for. And hammered coats, like winter coats, heavier is better. So another coat on top of that. That's really what I'm hoping for right there, is that texture. Okay, so I know about how strenuously I need to paint these things. So again, this is a thick, heavy coat, so I want to move it inside to eliminate anything falling on it. You know, there's an old adage that says a new broom sweeps clean, and I find that there's also there is a model building / painting adage that goes along with that, and that is a new can of primer sprays clean, sprays the smoothest. And so that's what I did. I was getting some spits and sputters out of the last can that I was using, which means it was getting down to the bottom of its useful life, and that would be fine if I was using it for priming like I normally would prime, but since this is going to be a top coat color with just the hammered texture over top of it, I decided to run out and get another can of the sandable primer, or the primer sealer, sorry. And look, there's a seam right there, but you can barely tell. It's just that good. So I'm going to let this set up, and I might see if I can get a hammered coat on here this afternoon, but I might not. Okay, the hopper is back on the operating table, or the operating table, and I am getting ready to put these little guys in here. Got to figure out exactly what's the best adhesive to use, because these are going to be at weird angles. I think I'm only going to be able to put the top ones in. It's going to have to be fairly fast acting, so I'm thinking it's going to have to be crazy glue, CA, to get those in place, and then do the two, and then spin this around and do the bottoms, and then spin it around and do it again. It's going to be interesting, so let's get on with the getting on. Okay, that went very well, and admittedly quicker than I thought it would go. All 8 of the little nozzles are now located inside of those engine bells. And like I say, they may not be accurate to how engines work, but they look like little burners of some sort, and suitably futuristic looking. And more importantly, it covers up that ugly, just gaping hole there. So those are in on both sides, and I've got a little bit of time left this afternoon, so I think I'm going to try doing a little bit of work on these inserts today, and maybe get those glued in. That will be fun. And this is where we're going to leave the hopper for this weekend. It's come a long way, baby. The most important and big impressive work of all weekend was done on this guy. So, yeah, these are just taped in right now. They're not glued. But now you can finally start to get the final picture of what these parts are going to look like once everything is in. Things are happening. We're almost, I can't believe we're 15 weeks into this. Not even mentioning weeks where no work was done at all. 15 weeks is a long time. More time than I normally spend on a model, but I've been working on a lot of other things in between this guy. But as you can see, there's still lots of painting to do. I've got to do that for the most glaring example. But yeah, I got the little nozzles in, and I will highlight the tops of those so that you can see them a little bit better. Lots of dry brushing to do. But yeah, really happy with. It's been one of those good weekends. Really happy with what I got done on him this weekend. Okay, now we're into the first coat of the hammered texture on this ball, the big part of the Derelict. And the danger here is you want to put the hammered paint on heavy to make the hammered effect work, but you don't want to put it on so heavy that it runs, because paint would run that way, and that's no G, that's NG, that's no good. It might be acceptable for you to set it on this and have it run that way, but still, you don't want paint to run. You want it to lay there and behave like it should. So what I'm doing, instead of spraying big coats, is I'm dotting it. And then I will roll it over and dot it again from the other side. But I don't want the paint to be so heavy that it wants to run. So it's going to take many light coats. And here are the petals. They've had multiple coats of the hammeredness on it, and they're still very shiny, and I need to spray those to knock that down. But that's definitely the texture I'm looking for. So that brings us to the end of another weekend. A fantastic weekend of work. I got into one of those grooves where I didn't want to go to bed at night, and I woke up early the next day, raring to get to it. The big important stuff was getting the hopper put together into one big cohesive ball, and work got very far along on the Derelict. Fantastic weather, so I could take things outside and I could sand it and prime it and do all those wonderful things. And the Batmobile's finished. So all in all, a fantastic work week, and even with the truncated Sunday. So until next week, when we will be finishing the Derelict and more than likely finishing the hopper. Ooh, wouldn't that be fun? Until then, I wish you a happy week, a good week. Be nice to each other, and we will see you around the workbench next week.